So I recently uploaded a video to one of my social media channels, and I got a comment from this guy, Mark, who says, once you get good at this, it's like having a gun in a knife fight. I've gotten so many good opportunities or raises just by controlling people's perception of me, just by practicing better communication. Guys, if I had to sum up in 2 sentences why I share all the stuff that I share on this channel or any other channel for that matter, it's exactly what Mark said in that comment. It's that you can drastically improve your life, both in business relationships and in personal relationships, by getting access to the resources and opportunities that you need to not just survive, but to thrive in life, by improving your communication skills and by paying attention to certain things that will improve the way people perceive you in certain contexts, environments, and circumstances. Now, sometimes when I share this with people, they say, well, I don't really care about people's perception of me. I don't really care what people think of me. I am who I am, and that's it. And so in certain contexts, that line of thinking is supportive and it's good. And what I mean by that is, like, in the context of caring so much about what people think of you that you allow it to dictate the decisions that you make, the behaviors that you exhibit, your self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, allowing people's opinions of you to influence those things is one thing. But consciously paying attention to the way you are perceived by other people when you communicate with them is an entirely different thing. So when you are communicating with people in life in general, you want to be conscious and cognizant of the way you are being perceived by them. And I got news for you. The best communicators in the world are the people that are super cognizant of this and ultra strategic in the way that they communicate with other people. Now, that's not to say that they put on a mask or a facade or they pretend to be somebody else. What they do is they become the best version of themselves in that situation in order to effectively communicate. And so what I'm going to share with you today in this video are 3 simple body language tips that, if you pay attention to these, most of the time, it's going to influence people's perception of you in a positive way. So tip number 1 is the 80-20 rule when it comes to eye contact, meaning when you communicate with someone, especially when they are speaking, you should be maintaining eye contact with them 80% of the time and only breaking eye contact with them 20% of the time. And the 20% of the time that you should be breaking eye contact with them should be when you are trying to consciously process something that they have said to you. Hey guys, if you enjoy this type of content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this. It really does help the algorithm. And make sure you click the first link in the description so you can get access to a free resource I've set up just for you. So what I want you to realize is this, is that there are subconscious cues that we as human beings are hardwired to pick up through our filters. And one of them is the break in eye contact. Now, generally speaking, if you break eye contact with someone, it means that you are losing interest in what they are saying, or something else in the environment is more worthy of your attention in that moment. And so you are making a decision, whether it's conscious or subconscious, to give your attention to that thing, right? It doesn't matter if you're having a conversation with somebody and a bird flies in and almost takes your head off and you break eye contact to look at that bird, or if you just simply get distracted for a second thinking about a bill that you have to pay and you start like wandering off thinking about that bill. Granted, those are 2 different contexts, but the same thing is happening. Something in the environment is getting your attention and telling you that the attention on that thing is worth more or is more important than the attention that you should be giving to the other person. So generally speaking, when you're communicating with somebody and you break eye contact with them, you're sending them a subconscious signal saying that what they are saying to you right now is not that important to you, or that something else is taking precedent over it. Now, the caveat to this is when somebody says something to you and you want to think about it or process it or try to understand it better, and so in that brief moment, you break eye contact with that person so that you can ponder what it is that they are saying to you. This actually has the complete opposite effect on the person. And what it does is it lets them know that you truly care and are deeply interested in what they are saying, so much, in fact, that you want to take the time to consciously make sure that you understand it by analyzing it and internalizing it and scrutinizing it in that moment. So why is this 80-20 rule important to begin with anyway? It's because while eye contact is important, if you just simply stare into someone's eyes like a serial killer during the entire interaction, they're going to perceive you as somebody that's a little awkward and a little strange. So you need to be able to cause these little rifts and fluctuations in the communication cycle to keep things interesting, to break up the monotony, and to just avoid this situation where you're like staring at somebody like a serial killer. And so the way that you break this up and you cause this rift in the communication is by breaking eye contact 20% of the time, but again, doing it strategically, doing it for a reason, knowing that the reason why you are breaking eye contact in that moment is because you want to analyze, you want to scrutinize, and you want to internalize what it is that that person is saying to you so that you can give them the best response possible. Tip number 2 is to always communicate using open body language. Guys, I've said this time and time again. I've got tons of videos on this topic, and for good reason. It's because open body language is super important when you communicate with people. Again, going back to that primitive lizard brain of ours, which dates back to a time before verbal communication, where we as a species had to be able to quickly identify threats to our environment and our resources by being able to analyze other people without the use of verbal language. What does that mean? It means that we need to be able to figure out what a person is up to by simply analyzing their body language. And closed body language, which is when you cover up vital organs like the lungs, the digestive system, and the heart, signifies that you are in a protective mode. It means that you have something to hide. Now, look, you might communicate with people and say, well, like for example, crossing your arms when you communicate with somebody. Some people would argue that they are just habitual arm crossers, that they just cross their arms by nature, and that they don't mean anything by it. It's just something that they do. It's a habit that they've built over years, and it's just a way of standing up that makes them feel comfortable. And that might certainly be true. What I'm saying to you is, regardless of what your intention is when you perform that gesture, it's being analyzed and internalized subconsciously by the person you're communicating with as a defensive gesture. You are subconsciously telling that person that you are protecting your vital organs and that you have something to hide. So what's the alternative? The alternative is to just communicate using open body language, meaning you should be gesturing, you should have your hands up, you certainly should not be crossing your arms, and you should be gesturing from the chest down to the navel area using open body language. Now, again, people say to me, well, I don't really see the harm in crossing my arms. Then, by all means, continue to cross your arms. What I'm telling you is that, again, if you want to be strategic and be among the small percentage of master communicators that actually pay attention to this stuff, like Mark, who commented in my video saying, I've gotten access to so many opportunities and resources by controlling people's perception of me. One of the ways that you can positively influence people's perception of you is by avoiding using closed body language. And then the last thing you can do is to mirror the other person's body language. So this is nothing more than performing the same gestures as the person you're communicating with. Now, there's a difference between mirroring and mimicking. And the difference, I would say, is in the subtlety of the execution. So, for example, let's say you and I are communicating and I'm leaning back in my chair and you are leaning forward in your chair. And you say, okay, I have to mirror this person's body language. And so the minute I sit back, you sit back. Or the minute I sit forward, you sit forward. And so what this does is it creates this unnatural way of communicating where the other person knows that you're up to something because you're deviating from what would normally happen if you were in rapport with that person. So having similar body language is a sign of rapport. How do we know this? Well, when two people communicate that are naturally in rapport with each other, it could be a couple that's in love with each other, it could be two friends that have known each other forever. When they are naturally in rapport, they are mirroring each other subconsciously and automatically without thinking about it. So you could test this the next time you're in a public place. Look around, especially like when people are at a picnic in the park and they're very relaxed. Pay attention to how they're communicating non-verbally. Do this from a distance so that you can't actually hear what they're saying, and just look at how they're communicating. By analyzing their nonverbal language, that's going to tell you a story about whether or not they are in rapport with one another. So again, when people are naturally in rapport, they're doing this organically without thinking about it. The key to being strategic about it is, again, being cognizant of the fact that if I mirror the other person's body language, they're going to feel a sense of connection with me. Remember, I've said this before and I'll say it again. People are persuaded and influenced by people that they like and people that they feel they are like. Well, when you mirror somebody's body language, you create that sense of connection and similarity where they feel like they are like you and they can relate to you. And this creates rapport. The key is you want to do it very subtly. And actually, as you get better at this, your radar for doing this without thinking about it is actually going to go up, and you're going to actually get better at this. Meaning, you won't have to necessarily think like, oh, okay, well, he sat back, now I need to sit back. You'll be so in tune with that person as you become a better communicator that you'll begin to do this without really thinking about it, and that's when the real rapport gets created. So guys, like I said, you can drastically influence people's perceptions of you for the better. And in doing that, you're going to get access to opportunities and resources that you might not otherwise have had access to that can drastically improve your life. So why would you not want to do that? Guys, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. It really helps the algorithm. And if you enjoy this type of content, let me know in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this.